It's been a while since I gave an update, but a lot has really conspired within the last month. And I was informed yesterday that my mother has stage 4 cancer. And it's the hardest thing to talk about. You know, they said that, of course, she had her biopsy. There were 3 masses in her liver. And they did the biopsy, and the results came back. And of course, it was cancer. And within the past 2 weeks, she's had trouble speaking. And the doctors thought it might have been a mini stroke. So they had the CT scan done today on her. And I guess we're going to find out the results of it, if it is a stroke or if cancer had went to her brain. So I know God can heal, and I have people praying that. I had people telling me, you got to be walk in faith for healing. And yeah, I have faith that God can heal. But also, if God chooses to take her, you know, how much better can it be for them? Not only joyful for her and anybody else, but what can they do in heaven that's beneficial for us? And I could be selfish. I could say, I want my mom here. I want my mom to stay longer. And I think about my son. He loves her. He adores her. And just to see those two talking together, the way they joke together and stuff like that. And Paul said that we shouldn't grieve like those that have no hope. No, we shouldn't grieve. They're in heaven. They're doing a lot better than we are. And my mother, I could be selfish and say, I want my mother to stay. But my mother misses her mother. She lost her mother, I believe, in 1960 when my mother was 13. My grandmother passed away from um, Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. My mother lost her father when I believe my mother was a teenager or a little later. And so my mother has lost her aunts, and she lost my father. And she has been a wounded woman dealing with, so much hurt through the years. But she received Jesus and she loves him, but she's wounded. So I know God can heal, and I would love for him to heal her completely. But I also know that she wants to be with her mom and her dad. And she had said so many times, when she was upset, how she just wants God to take her out of here. And she said that through upset, and I'm telling her, you can't do that. You're cursing yourself. And at that moment, she's like, I don't care. So, she's tired of, dealing with the stuff. And people could easily rebuke her about what she's saying and what she's doing. But to really understand somebody, you have to know about their past. You have to know what they went through. You have to walk in their shoes to understand their viewpoint. When you can walk through their shoes and have a better understanding, then through God's help, you can minister to them. But we must first be understanding with what people are going through. So my mother has been a godsend for me. When I had no place to go, I was always there. So I have been with my mother for a couple of years, and if she passes, then I really have nowhere to go. I am in God's arms. And I spoke with a brother this morning, and he's telling me, you're in a faith walk. I'm here to teach people to trust God, depending on Him. So it's only natural that I have to go through this so that I can give people hope in what God can do. And I'm not going to put expectations on God about what He's going to do. All I want to do is yield to the work that He's trying to do in me, yield to love, yield to loving people. I don't know what God has planned. Jesus said that we don't think about tomorrow, for tomorrow has enough worries of its own. So I depend on Him for everything. And according to the world, they can look at my situation and say, well, if you had a good paying job and you were successful, you never would have had to deal with this. No, it's not the case at all. My walk in God is for the purpose of giving people hope that when they lose their jobs, they can depend on Him, that God will come through. And, God's wisdom is greater than what I can ever conceive. When Job went through it, he lost his kids. His wife was at odds with him. He was covered with boils. He had friends who were really not friends, and they were criticizing him. Maybe you did this wrong in which you're going through this, which so easy for people to say that. They can look at my situation. So, if you had a successful and a good paying job, you never would have had to go through this. But, those are people that see without the eyes of God. When you don't know who God is and when you don't know what God can do, it's so very easy to take the earthly approach regarding somebody's circumstances. So I can't worry about tomorrow. It's so very easy to walk in fear, thinking, oh man, I'm not going to have anywhere to go. I'm going to be homeless. But I don't know what God has planned. I don't know where He's going to put me. But all I want to do is be open to what He has in store. There's so many things I want to do, and I want to be able to give hope to people in church. I want to be able to go to churches and speak about what God has done and what God can do. And one day I want to meet the woman that God has for me. I've been rejected so often by Christian girls and many other girls for not following what this world says I have to follow. But the woman that God has for me will see me. She will see what I'm doing for God, and she will love it. So this is where I'm at right now. It's the hardest thing. I'm waiting to hear if I'm going to hear from my son, take him to the hospital to see his grandma. And I don't know how long, God is going to give us together. It's the hardest thing. No one really knows what it's like unless they're in that place of losing their parent or have lost their parent. And it's hard for me because my mom has always been there. She's been a support for me emotionally. And I want to be there for her as much as I can and encourage her. And get her to smile at times because it's hard for her to talk. And I could see when she's looking at me, she's trying to voice what she's thinking, and she can't. So I have to guess what she's saying to understand. And last night she said she couldn't bear the thought of Micaiah knowing, my son knowing about her and him being told and how he's going to take that. But, it's life. And it says in, you know, Ecclesiastes, there's a time to live and there's a time to die. And it's all a part of life. We're born, we live, and we pass away, and we go on with God. So I just wanted to give you an update. I mean, this is a hard message. It's hard for me to talk. But if you have been through the same thing, you know what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I'm sorry for, just I'm dealing with, just a lot of emotion. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you for taking the time to watch.